I grew up in all parts of Tampa. When I say Tampa, so let's see, born and raised in Port Tampa, so down by MacDill Air Force Base. My mom and all her family, immediate family, is right there. So then my dad was from what's called Carver City. So that's the International Mall area on the hills of West Tampa. So that's my dad's mom and dad. Then my great grandmother was in Ybor. So that's my granddad's mom and her mom. They lived in Ybor. So that's Ybor, and then my dad moved to East Tampa. So you've got East Tampa. My mom is in West Tampa. After she divorced him from, they moved from Port Tampa, grandparents in Carver City. So all over the city, I had to live, and with different parents, just being with the different sides of your family, I had to be in those areas. But I saw a lot. I saw differences in the way people lived, from the apartment community I lived in to the housing that was in Port Tampa, to the families that was in Port Tampa, to the way people lived in these, I call them now Oso Florida homes in Ybor. It was just such a difference throughout the community. I had an interest in the different styles, the way people lived. It was just intriguing for me. So when I got into real estate, I definitely say a true Tampa girl. So I had seven grandparents. So I had my mom's mom and her mom. I had my dad's mom and my dad's dad. I had both of their parents, and then I had my grandmothers on my mom's side parents. So I had seven grandparents, and I had to spend time with each of them because back then my mom didn't really use daycare. We spent time with grandparents, and then as we went summers, we spent summers with grandparents and great grandparents. So I was fortunate to go as far as great great grandparent alive. So I, working, got a job, and I, in that role, we were working with a bank that did the RAL. So that's refund anticipation loans, and that's like where you go to get your taxes prepared, and they give you that short window of a loan while your tax return is being calculated. And so when that season ended, they put us in a role that was a credit analyst. So that was a position where I would render decisions on credit apps. So then they taught me credit, they taught me applications, they taught me loans, finance, and then that sparked an interest in, well, how do you get approved for a house? Well, how do you get approved for that? Like, and why does my family live? My mom live in an apartment, and the other people don't. I wonder what's the secret of knowing how to qualify for a home. So that career um, just thrust into credit analyst and senior credit analyst, and then I had more questions, and I went on to become a loan officer, and then loan officer to owning my own branch. And from owning my own branch, I became an underwriter. From being an underwriter, I went into senior compliance and an auditor, AVP, and then I came out of the financial institution to do real estate, and then ultimately community development through a nonprofit. So I want to use it all to make a difference. That experience at JP Morgan Chase is where I just believe God said, everything you've done up until this point, I equipped you for that. And to whom much is given, much is required. So each time in that seat, I would look at loan mod requests and short sale requests, and people tell you their heart, just their stories about their lives and why they need you to help them adjust the payment. And so what I found was that there was a lack of information outside the financial institution. And so I journaled because they paid great money. I journaled the top 5 reasons why people are losing their homes. And I said that before the next crisis happens, I'm making a commitment that I'll obey and be on the outside of the financial institution so that I can educate, so that I can equip people, give them the information, access to the resources that they need to prevent this from happening again. So I formed workshops based on the top 5 reasons people suffer loss, and as a result, we went on to help many, many people avoid foreclosure. Many, many people avoid selling their home. Many people get asset protection. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And so from that day in 2008, when I got to the financial institution, I knew I wasn't going to be there long. I went and wanted to get established so that I can go assist people. And it changed my life ever since then. So thankfully, I was able to get into real estate and begin to work the foreclosure market but I knew you weren't going to make a lot of money doing that. And so, in doing the community outreach and just helping different people, one of the chefs for athletes and celebrated individuals needed housing for a player. And he called and said, "Can you help me find a place for this guy? He plays in Tampa Bay." And so I assisted that young man. But the second player that I assisted 13 years ago became a son for me. And my son is what I call him, SUN son. He would go in the locker room and his smile is contagious. His personality is infectious. I mean, he's got amazing energy. And so as guys come in, he would say, "You got to call Kella. You got to call Kella. Don't live this far. She's going to tell you not to live over there. Listen to her because you're going to be, so he became my biggest cheerleader inside the organization. And then they did a change in coaches, and that staff began to say, "We want to use you. We see what you're doing with these guys. They love you in this locker room." And so thank God that origination, or that introduction became the way I was able to get into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and serve for about 13 years, providing housing, education, and concierge services to many of the players. And still to this day, we get calls, but it became 13 years. It was a fortunate opportunity to be able to assist them with that. Yeah, the call. The first one was I received a call from a young lady that explained to me that her home, a gentleman was outside her door with a check for $5,000. And he said to her that if she took the $5,000, he would give her a lease, which he had in his hand, and he offered her to stay in her home if she took this check. And if she paid this amount of money, she could stay in this home. So she learned, or she interpreted, that he had purchased her home. She didn't know how that happened because she wasn't selling a home, but her loan was sold to a loan. Well, I didn't know what happened at the time. So I said, "Ma'am, I'm at the casino. I've had some pina coladas, and this does not sound right. Call me tomorrow." I hung up the phone, made a note to call her tomorrow. And 10 minutes later, I get a call from a senior citizen. And she has the same story. And I'm thinking, this can't be. So I leave now the casino. I go home. I do some research, look both women up. And I find there's about 25 of them that was sold to a loan shark, unregistered, unregulated, unlicensed loan shark. This is Habitat. They do the greater good. And I'm thinking to myself, how is this possible? After further digging, I told you my background was loan officer, I was compliance, I was an underwriter. I knew the rules and regs as it relates to the financial industry. This was illegal. It was unethical. And I had to do something about it because there was just two. By the next day, there were five. And I knew I had to do something. And so we were able, thank God, we were able to get all of those homeowners back in good standing with their original lender. They sold those loans back. And then we began to educate the homeowners. And we asked that Habitat would educate those individuals again as well. They didn't know that the home wasn't sold, the loan was sold. They didn't understand what a pay history was because they weren't receiving them. They didn't know how much they owed. One homeowner only owed $2,300, and they sold that loan to a loan shark. And she was about to give up her home for $5,000. Thank God the man said, "That don't sound right." Because she thought, because this man is standing in front of her with the check, with her information and documents with her name on it, she thought it was real. And we were able to save 25 people from the damaging effects of being sold to a loan shark. That was call one. Not long after, I received a call from some of the community leaders that been in East Tampa working, and COVID had happened, and we couldn't get our elected officials to do a political forum. Like we didn't, there was nowhere to do it because of COVID. Everybody was afraid to have people gather. And so I went to some people that's in the community that are amazing. And so we went over to what's called 1828. That was a nightclub. That was what it was. It was a club. And so we went to that nightclub because that husband and wife team wanted to do something for the community. They had disrespected those people and told them that their nightclub was a nuisance, too much going on there, harassing them. But because they're good neighbors, they wanted to do something good. I said, well, hey, let's bring the elected officials to your building. They gave me those keys and said, we can open it up. You do your form, bring them here. But we want to make this a significant location. We can use healthcare. We can do a restaurant. We can do whatever the community needs. And they laughed me out of the city. Out of all the people running for office, two showed up. One Democrat, one Republican. Two people, elected officials, showed up. The rest of the people that showed up were registered because I can have so many because of the mask and the 3 feet apart or whatever that was. I couldn't have as many people in the building, but we did have some, and it was online. It was virtual, and it was online. And as a result of that, I was shocked at how people couldn't see past what it was today. I'm saying this is what it could be. It could be a location that's a place for the community. Today it's a nightclub. Come to the forum and see what could be. Well, they didn't listen. They left me out of the city. But thank God, not long after that, in 2022, we received new administrators in the city, and Deputy Chief Mayor, I believe, Elise Drumgo and Nicole Travis was added to the team. They came to the city. I took them to that building. Now, they were not my clients, but I took them to that same building and said they want to create a healthcare facility, a pharmacy for the community. And Elise Drumgo was able to guarantee me that he can authorize and give them $350,000 towards the renovation of this nightclub that was a nuisance and made it a place for quality healthcare and a pharmacy. And those two things confirmed that I was supposed to be in this space doing community education. We wanted to be an outreach organization, so we're more than just on paper. We're boots on the ground, and that will raise the awareness of the needs of the communities and draw the partners to help bring transformation. And that's when I knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so we formed the Center for Economic Development. I knew that I was very fortunate to have grandparents and great grandparents, and then to have seven of them. And so I got to see how they all aged in place. I got to see where they had family to support them. And as I was in the community, I saw that that didn't happen. And so I wanted to make a difference. And I just believe that if you don't see what you want, create it, establish it, implement it, whatever that is. And that's how that got started. So anybody out there that would like to make a difference and not really sure where to start with what you're passionate about. Start with what you would like to see, where you would like to see change, and just begin to make the necessary adjustments to try and make that happen. In the next 5 to 10 years, I like to see East Tampa get the economic impact it deserves. Like, I like to see some significant development happen in East Tampa. And I mean the mixed use, I mean the retail, I mean access to, they have access to walkable districts. They have access to food, fresh food options. We have restaurants in those food deserts. And I want to see crime reduced because people are seeing life. Right now, it's just dead. Like, a lot of it is dead. It seems dark in East Tampa because it lacks the necessary development and some of the infrastructure necessary to change the trajectory of many. And so I want to see all of that in the next 5 to 10 years. The mindset is wrong in those areas. Oftentimes the LLC comes from another state, come in to bring change there in that community. And I believe it can start with the local people there in that area. There's some landowners that would like to do more for their community. They have purposes, they have plans, but they don't have the information nor access to the resources to help them do that. I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings is that we don't need the outside LLC to make a difference in a community that has some key parcels of real estate in their neighborhood today and willing participants. I think that's the biggest one, and that's the one that I would like to see. I'd like to mitigate some of the situations where they're selling, and I'd like to see more families participate in development in their community to provide the needs, whether it's housing, affordable housing, whether it's healthcare, whether it's a grocery store, what retail, whatever the need is. I like to see more families participate and provide that development. The cleanups is the highlight for me because I'm looking at people that at one time probably was the biggest volunteers in their community. At one time they were, thriving, they were young, they did, everything they thought that was right to do. And they find themselves in situations beyond their control. And they're faced with a fine. And I just don't think that a senior that has owned and operated and lived in their community 20, 30, 40, 50 years should have to worry about a code enforcement fine. And so to be able to provide them some kind of relief, no stress about a fine, is one of the biggest, that's one of the highs of what we do at the center. I'm most proud of that community cleanup. The families typically that's missing in our communities. That's missing in a lot of our communities whereby these owners, I have one family member, Ms. Jackson is a pioneer to me. Like she's an amazing woman, 80 something years old, and she shows up every day to work. But when she purchased the store that she has now, her and her husband had plans. They purchased it over 55 years ago. And they had plans. They became the community store. They gave credit when people didn't have the money to buy. They provided in that community. And she knows that she's 80 plus years old. Everybody has a day. And she wants to create housing for seniors 62 and up. She wants to keep her store. She wants on the second floor to have a daycare for seniors. And she wants that to go on to her sons and their children and generations to come. To me, we need more Miss Jacksons in our communities that has a plan for the next several generations and meeting a need for seniors that want to age in their community and not have to go outside to live somewhere that's affordable. And I want to see more of that in our communities. We need more dissenters. We need more people out here providing information to the community in terms of financial literacy, in terms of home ownership, in terms of development, in terms of community cleanups or neighborhood beautifications, or we need more because you can only do so much as an organization. And I think that as people recognize needs in their communities, show up. If you have a desire to do it, if you want to do something like that, you want to volunteer, you want to participate, you want to sponsor, you want to donate, we need more people to do it, but we need more sponsors. We need more donors. We need more volunteers. We need